Hey there. How are you? Had a good lab day today?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Hey, lab day today?
I arrived early.
Yeah.
I just got home. Yeah.
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 All right. Yeah. What would you like to go over today?
Um,
Hmm.
I feel like I've always wanted to do like a review of genetics because I get a lot of questions wrong with genetics. I shouldn't. I do. And so the second passage of like this biochem section had some genetics, so I guess we could review that. But just more broadly, I wanted to go over like there weren't any of these types of questions, but of the like probability ones.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah,
Okay.
I can share my screen. That's good. Mm, yeah, maybe. Odd. Can you share? Can you see it? I think it's not this. Yeah, I think it's this. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember this passage. This passage is like pretty much nonsense. So I wouldn't worry too much about this passage. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I had a similar impression. I feel like then would it be more helpful to get another passage or should I don't know, how should we review
So
just
see what
yeah,
the questions are. So let me see. This is talking about okay, you can continue.
referring to this.
Hmm.
This
Okay. Okay.
and this.
All right, let's go back to like the second one.
Here.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't remember if the passage specifically mentioned anything about uh did it? Oh wait, I think it did mention about P arms and stuff.
Like oh. It
Okay.
didn't mention what they were.
Yeah. Hmm.
It just mentions this.
Hmm. Yeah. So it seems like the long arm will be called Q and the short arms would be called P. And what do you think acrocentric means?
I'm thinking of the center of a chromosome, but I don't know.
So, yeah, what's the name of, in ancient Greece, like the highest point? Do you remember, like, where they built like the Pantheon and stuff? Do you remember what that was called? Like, it's a elevated point.
No.
Acropolis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, right. So, uh, well, I don't know if I ever told you this, but like I think it's either like 60 or 80% of English is derived from Latin roots. Greek and Latin roots. So uh most of the time if you can see if you see a word and there's stuff inside of that word that look familiar, then that would be a good way to figure out what something means. So like the Acropolis, right, is high. It's an elevated place, right?
Mhm.
So, and we know that the second word centric means that it's going to be like the center part, or I guess the centrosome, or sorry, the centromere, will be like higher than normal. So that's what they mean by acrocentric.
I see.
Yeah. Um, what do you think the opposite of um that would be called.
Like the lowest part of a center?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Okay. So, all right, so we at least know that. So this would mean that the chromosome will, well, okay, I'll tell you, like it's telo. Oh, and then you kind of think of telomeres. Where are those usually located?
End of the
Ends, right? So telo, I'm pretty sure is Greek for like bottom or uh something like that. Let me make sure. It means end. Okay. So acrocentric means that the centromere will be higher than normal, like that. And telocentric, the centromere will be located lower. So it would look perhaps something like that. Um, uh, well, let's see. I switched like the long arms and I'm going to keep the P arms up top. Well, actually, yeah, I'll just make it like more long here to make it more exaggerated. But essentially that's what they mean. Acrocentric, the centromere is located higher than normal. Telocentric, lower than normal. Um, and yeah. And generally speaking, the P arms, I think, are the ones that are going to be on the top. Um, let's see. Yeah, normally it would be metacentric, but yeah, it seems like the P arms will typically be on the top, the short ones, and the Q arms will be the ones on the bottom, which will be the long ones. So okay, that's just that about this. I guess it would be worth it to kind of go over some of these words or terms and stuff. So, can you scroll up to the top of this passage? So let's see. Um, okay, so defect in a single gene, right? And then okay, they say autosomal recessive, um, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive, X-linked dominant, and Y-linked. What can you tell me about some of that?
um
Mhm.
so autosomal recessive and dominant would be like opposites. So like you would need, I'm thinking like two copies
Uh-huh.
for it shown, and then for the recessive of the you have to carry the two copies, the two versions of the gene. Um and for dominant, you like you have one that's dominant, so regardless if you have the recessive present, like you would still show
Mhm.
or like have the phenotype.
Mhm.
For X-linked and X-linked versus Y-linked. So I guess you're referring to like the chromosomes, like the sex chromosomes. So they're following like a sexual pattern of inheritance. Um, I think I have in my mind like Y-linked is male-linked. I don't know why. I think like if you have a or X-linked is, I don't know. I'm getting confused. But like X, like I think that for there is one in which maybe it's X-linked because they only have men only have like one copy of the X chromosome. If they have it there, and there's barely any like genetic info on the Y, I think I've heard this, I don't know. Then like they would they're going because they don't have the other X, like they're going to have the disease. So there's so many like disease that are linked like this is what I'm thinking. And I think that's for X-linked diseases. Now, Y-linked, I don't know. I may be confusing that. I don't know.
Oh no no. So okay, yeah, if it's an X-linked like recessive, um, whatever mutation or disorder or whatever, um, it means that you would need, well, a female would need to have two of those X-linked alleles messed up, right? But because if they just got one that was messed up, they're going to get another one that isn't messed up. And since it's recessive, they'll be heterozygous like carriers, right? So, so X-linked recessive will usually do damage to males because the males will only have to receive one um allele that's has the X-linked like disorder attached to it because males can't, kind of like the Y chromosome isn't going to like cancel out the X one. So that's why, yeah, X-linked recessive typically like will be affecting males. And X-linked dominant would be similar, except it's just dominant, so that you just need one of the genes. Um, and Y-linked, that would be, I think that would be like kind of, um, you know, like, okay, so if it's something that uh would affect males because of the Y chromosome, so that could be what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have also like the autosomal part.
Um, that would mean that it's not like it's affecting like all cells. Is that what it means? Like it's not just the like gametes.
Uh-huh. So, um, so the autosomal chromosomes will be all the chromosomes except for the gametes. So that's like an autosomal means that it's the stuff that isn't related to the sex like gametes. So autosomal disorders would be affecting males and females pretty much equally. But yeah, it doesn't include the gametes. It's separate from the gametes. So like, you know, yeah, so that's what the autosomal part means. So okay, so we have that, and this is Mendelian, inheritance. Okay, then they talk about okay, what's aneuploidy? Well, I guess they tell you, but yeah, tell me what that is.
Uh, so there's like polyploidy, or I guess it could also be less. So like having an imbalanced number of chromosomes than typical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we can remember like diploid, haploid, and things like that. So okay, yeah, more or fewer than the normal number. So okay, then they talk about trisomy 21, which is common, and in this, affected individuals have three copies of chromosome 21. So that's an aneuploidy. So it can result from two parents that have normal genomes. Okay. The third copy of chromosome 21 comes from a non-disjunction of chromosome 21 during gametogenesis or a Robertsonian translocation. Um what's non-disjunction?
When they don't separate the chromosomes.
Mhm. Yeah, continue.
Sorry?
So continue with what you're saying.
Yeah. So during
Mhm.
like cell division, I guess it could be mitosis or meiosis.
Mhm.
Um, you might have non-disjunction if like the chromatids fail to separate or like the homologous chromosomes fail to separate.
Yeah, right. Because at that like it can either be metaphase um, for mitosis or like metaphase 2 for meiosis. But yeah, you're that's when you have I believe it happens in the I think maybe telophase, or I think yeah, it's basically when it's after metaphase, so it's after they line up. And yeah, it's after that, so that would have to be the telophase where, it
And
what's that?
or
Yeah,
like the end phase?
spindles. Yeah, the spindles pull the chromatids that form a chromosome like apart. And if it does that in an unequal manner, that's what can lead to these issues. Oh, and then telo, that's the end, right? We know that from Greek or whatever. So telophase is last phase, right? Um, cool. Okay, so all right, so non-disjunction can happen during gametogenesis, okay. Or from this thing called a Robertsonian translocation. Doesn't tell us what it is yet. It says 1 in 1,000 newborns have it. And the most frequent forms are when there's, these chromosomes like 14/21, blah, blah, blah. And they occur when when the long Q arms of two acrocentric chromosomes fuse at the centromere, and the two short P arms are lost. So, so it seems like both these, like these ones over here, or maybe I'll make it a little bit more exaggerated, but let's say we have something like that, and then super long that, and another one that, and another one like this. And when they fuse at the centromere. So here, I'll color this. So I'm going to color this part blue. I'm going to color this part, or rather, I'm going to color this stuff blue, and this stuff green. And when they fuse, you will get something like this with, the green stuff here and the blue stuff here. Because it says that ROBs occur when the long Q arms, right? Those are the ones on the bottom of two acrocentric chromosomes fuse at the centromere, and these top short P arms disappear. Right? So that's something that can happen here. Okay, and then they mention a couple of these chromosomes which are acrocentric, and then okay, then figure 1, we could take a look. So we could see, okay, like normal chromosome 14 looks like that, and normal chromosome 21 looks like that. And then this thing on the right, what do you think that is?
The translocation.
Yeah, right? Like this product, right? Because you're
Yeah.
getting rid of the short P arms, and then you're fusing the long arms to get that, right? Okay. Now, and of course they're gonna say something like crazy like that to make it confusing. So, but 6 possible products and then blah blah blah. So yeah, this one I wouldn't worry about. This is one of the few passages that I just think is not worth it to go over. But yeah, we went over like the relevant genetic stuff here. So let me see what this question's saying. Which of the following? Oh, so P14, P21 chromosome is lost because spindle fibers fail to attach to it during mitosis. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're reading this. Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. Oh, it even looks worse when you go down. But okay, cool. So let's see if I can do this question. So, which of the following best explains why a Robertsonian carrier may not have any health problems? Because, yeah. So we know in general, okay, well, we know that a carrier, okay, so let's see. Genes on the lost P arms can be found elsewhere in the genome. Um, really? Did they say something like that?
Don't. But I guess, although it doesn't, like, from all the questions, like, I guess what they're asking, this would make the most sense, like why you don't have any like loss of genetic information.
Okay.
Um, but like they don't mention any. And it's odd to think that like you delete two portions of
Yeah,
half a chromosome and you have no, yeah, like everything is elsewhere, yeah.
got it. Okay, so I guess the way to do approach this is to see that okay, two short P arms are lost. So I'm going in with the mindset of that not being there anymore. Um, but then the question stem tells us that someone who had this done, like losing the short P arms, don't have any change in their health, right? So we want to think about what, like, if a person's losing the short P arms, why is it that this person's health is not being affected? So either so like I'm just looking at B, so there are no genes found on any of the P arms of acrocentric chromosomes. So okay, that if you get rid of the P arms and the person has no health problems, maybe the P arms never had anything valuable in the first place. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. And then if I look at C, it says all acrocentric P arms contain the same base sequence. Okay, tell me about this choice.
Um, they're all supposed to be different, I think. Yeah, because like
Mhm. Go on.
all of the chromosomes should be different. Mm.
Well, yeah, right. Because it's saying a lot to say. I mean, you know, first of all, we have an extreme word here, but even if that wasn't there and it said, acrocentric P arms contain the same base sequence, it's pretty rare to see in DNA, or chromosomes, which are the condensed forms of DNA, for things to just be identical, right? Uh, it usually isn't like that. So yeah, we have that extreme word for all, but even if that wasn't there, there's nothing that would lead me to think that they should have the same base sequence. For instance, this P arm for chromosome 14, this P arm for chromosome 21, they there's nothing that would indicate that they have the same gene or base sequence. So yeah, we can't say that. Um, and then if we have, and also if even if it was true, like that wouldn't explain why this person who had the P arms lost has no health effects, right? So it doesn't answer the question either. So for three reasons, we can knock this out. All extreme, um, and then just it's just not true that they'll have the same base sequence. That's super like not likely for anything. Um, and then the last thing is just that even if that was true, that the P arms contain the same base sequence, it doesn't explain why when you get rid of the P arms that you won't experience any change in your health. So yeah, so three reasons that why that one can be wrong. And then D, the long Q arm chromosome, copies the genetic information from the P arms before they are lost. Now, this seems like it seems like it would, if it was true, it could answer the question because it's telling us that before we delete these guys, we're copying the information here. And therefore, we still have the information. And therefore, the person who has this shouldn't experience any change in health, right? So D, if true, would answer the question. But okay, now let's look back to oh, and then also for B, there's no genes found. No is pretty extreme too. Because the trick is always to assign a numerical percentage. All is 100%, no is 0%. So those words mean, those words could be considered to be uh extreme words. Because all you need is one exception to disprove it, right? So if B is saying that there's no genes found on any of the P arms of acrocentric chromosome. So, it doesn't say like this specific chromosome. It says, generally speaking, acrosomal or acrocentric chromosome. Um, so first let's think, okay, would that be true? Well, if it was true, then sure, we could say that if there's no genes on the P arms, then when you lose the P arms, it doesn't change anything, right? So we could, see, I guess, if this was true, that it might be close to an answer, but I don't think that, the P arms are going to have no genes. That's kind of a stretch. So I don't like that choice because of the extreme, the no genes part. Right. So okay, so let's see. And then A says genes on the lost P arms can be found elsewhere in the genome. So that answer is like vague. And if it's vague, it's harder to disprove. Like, let me give you an example. So if I say that, if I say the nucleus has, is contiguous with the like Golgi and endoplasmic reticulum and all that stuff. Compare that, or I'll make it a little simpler, but let's say that, okay, DNA can only, or RNA can only be found in the nucleus, right? Compared to RNA can always be found in the cell. Okay. So the one that's more specific, right, is saying too much. If I say that RNA can only be found in the nucleus or only be found in the cytosol, you would just need to show me one example of the contrary. Like if I said RNA can only be found in the nucleus, you could say, hey, look at this. There's RNA in the cytoplasm where it gets translated. And then that statement that I made, that specific, would be wrong, right? But if I just said RNA is in the cell, that's so vague that it can't be wrong. You can't disprove that, right? So for this, it's like if you say too much, you want to think like, or say things like a politician would. So, so like the way that I'm seeing this is so for C, all acrocentric P arms contain the same base sequence. That's such a specific thing. If two of these P arms have even one change, it could even be a silent mutation where do you know what I mean when I say a silent mutation? It's like when you change an amino acid to something that functions the same way. all you need is that one, single nucleotide polymorphism to make C incorrect right away. Because it's saying all, and it's also saying same. It's not even saying similar. So, and then no genes, right? So A is the most vague because it's just saying, hey, it can be found elsewhere in the DNA. And like, of course, that would be something that's a possibility, right? Because that's it's such a vague statement, right? So that's just like a general strategy that you can always use to evaluate question stems and question choices. So like, yeah, like essentially like, and of course, if you have time, of course, right? But let's say, assuming you have time, like, I think it would be best to like kind of go through the ones and think, okay, what don't I like about this? What do I like about this? And kind of go from there. Because
Okay.
even without like the passage, a lot of the times you can kind of figure like logic stuff out. But yeah, so here we're just saying that, you know, um, it's okay that this person lost short P arms, which means that whatever is on those short P arms is probably elsewhere in the genome, so that person is not experiencing any health problems.
That's good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so um, all right. So let's see where talks about that, or I think they talked about they talked about the trisomy, but yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's see below. Let's see.
I think I got it. I think it's because
Mhm.
they described here that um the chromosomes fuse. So you had two chromosomes
I
and
see.
you one.
Just
So that's why
subtracting.
you
Mhm.
go down one, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so it seems like, yeah, the Rob means that you go from two chromosomes to one. Um, and it's a liver cell, so you're going to start off at 46. Um, and then you'll subtract by one. So, okay. Yep. Pretty much
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Let's
These
forget.
questions are really useful, so it's
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, I don't know. I guess, well, I just haven't encountered one yet in one of these practice tests.
What?
Or like the U-World questions either. Um, Questions on there's always like one of them on the like AAMC question practice test, like of
Huh?
uh like how many offspring will have this disease, and this is like the genotypes of the parents, or they'll do it with fruit flies. Yeah. I don't
Let's
know.
see. Like, yeah, I know what you're kind of talking about, like how like like the F1 generation is there's like a question like that in like with beetles that I remember for the section bank. It was like there's red and black or brown beetles or something like that, and the red one is dominant, and the F1 generation can has um two heterozygous, one both alleles dominant, and then one both alleles recessive. So that's three red ones and one brown one, and they want to and so when it comes to that and you're doing the probabilities equations, I mean not equations, but when you're doing the probability, if you are taking the probability of the, let's see, probability
I could try to find one. I could try to find that on the section bank if you'd like.
yeah, I could even find
Let me just stop sharing.
stuff too. Yeah, so for probabilities, if it's an or statement, like this is the probability of this, and then we have a probability for another thing. If you're being asked what's the probability that it'll be one of these two things, you would add the probabilities. But if you want to find the probability of both things occurring, you will multiply the probabilities.
Okay.
So let me see. If find a, let's see, MCAT Genetics probability questions.
Oh, I found the section bank Beetle question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to answer this in a shorter way. So for this question here, it says in a species of beetle, red body color is dominant to brown. Two red beetles are crossed and produce 31 red and 9 brown offspring, F1 generation. If two red F1 beetles are crossed, what is the probability that both red and brown beetles will appear in the F2 generation? Note, assume Mendelian inheritance pattern. So, okay, let's think about this, right? So the red body color is dominant to brown. So a red beetle could have a genotype of big R, as well as big R, little r. Now, brown is recessive, so that can only be little r. Now, they're telling us that the F1 generation is 31, there's 31 red beetles and 9 brown beetles, which is pretty much what you would get if you crossed two heterozygous parents. So I'll start with the parent generation. Now, let's see what could happen. Let's just see what if we had big R, and big R. Well, everything will be big, meaning everything will be red, and that's not what we want. We want some brown offspring as well. So why don't we try big R, and the heterozygous big R. Well, you'll get basically this, which again translates into all red beetles. So the only other option must be both of the parents being heterozygous. So we can have big R, big R, which would mean we would get a result like this, which means that, well, it means that the red ones are these, and then the brown one is this one. And you can see how there's pretty much, 3/4 that are red and 1/4 that is brown. Now, this, by the way, is the F1 generation, by the way. So I'm just going to write that here. So F1, basically, we have, some offspring with big R, 2 with big R, and then 1 with little r. Now, they're telling us that they're crossing 2 red F1 beetles. Now, that means that they're crossing. So if they're crossing 2 red F1 beetles, that means that the probability here is going to be for F2, right? And they're crossing 2 red beetles for the same reason the parent generation is a cross of both the heterozygotes or zygous. The F1 generation will be the same. It would be big R, little r, and same type of deal here. Okay, now, again, we have just these, which are red. So again, 3/4 are red, and 1/4 is brown. So essentially, what they're asking us here is, what's the probability that both red and brown beetles will appear in the F2 generation? So if we choose, okay, this would be the product of the F2 generation here. But if we want it to be both red and brown beetles like we have over here, that means that we must choose out of the red beetles, right? So let's say, okay, let's say that let's say F1 male or something, F2 female, let's just say. These would have to be, well, out of the red ones, it would have to, basically the probability that you would get red beetles here would be 2/3, because I should rephrase that. Probability that you're going to get the red beetles is 3/4, but we need them to be heterozygous. So the probability of getting a heterozygous red beetle is 2/3, because here, out of these 3/4 that are red, there's 1, 2, 2 big R, little r, and 1 big R. So that's a 2/3 probability. So so that would be the probability of one beetle being red in color, but one that can also produce offspring that will be both red and brown. So that's a 2/3 probability here. And for the other beetle, because we're mating the two, will also be a 2/3 probability. Now, when it comes to probabilities, if you have an or situation, you will add the probabilities. However, if you have an and situation, you will multiply the probabilities. So they're asking us, if the 2 F1 red beetles are crossed, we need both the male and the female to be red and, heterozygous. So this is the combination or the sum of 2 independent events. So we're going to multiply these two. So our answer will be 2/3 times 2/3, which comes out to 4/9. And that's why that's the answer. So here we go. I hope this was useful.